Hello, everyone. Welcome to this National Drive Electric Week webinar. It's EV 101 focused on the Oregon folks here. So thank you for spending your morning with us. We have some great content for you. Um, Excited to be here, and I'll remind folks that we are doing a charger giveaway for being here. You can partnering with Blink, and you can win a level 2 charger or $100 of public charging credit. So another great bonus for attending. So trying to keep this one a little more casual, recognizing that it is a Saturday morning, and we're off the work grind, so trying to keep things a little fun. So let's start it off with a little icebreaker. If you want to participate in the attendee chat on the left side of your screen, um, it's Saturday morning, so let's think back. What is your or was your favorite Saturday morning cartoon? I definitely enjoyed a good Saturday morning cartoon growing up. So let's see what's out there. Nice. There was a Tom and Jerry that came in. Pokemon. All right. I see you, Sergio. Ren and Stimpy Joe. Oh, Roadrunner. Okay. Ooh, Rocky and Bullwinkle. Okay, another Roadrunner. Awesome. All right. Some good ones out there. Ooh, Power Rangers. All right, that's a classic. All right, thanks everybody. Let's kind of get into more of the meat and potatoes for the day. And also, I think there might be a little issue with the chat. Ideally, everybody would be able to see everybody's messages, but they might only be going to presenters. So we'll see if we can figure out how to fix that. But sorry for that issue. So quick, who we are for putting this National Drive Electric Week on, or this particular event on. We've done quite a few for National Drive Electric Week. We're a nonprofit trade association. We advocate for electric, shared, and smart mobility in the Pacific Northwest and beyond. We're based in Portland, Oregon, but our work has taken us kind of all over the United States at this point. And a big part of what we do is consumer engagement work, just advocating for electric vehicles and kind of doing events like this. Normally, with National Drive Electric Week, we like to get out there in person, interacting with people, doing test drives. So we're pivoting and trying to make do with what we got in this the COVID world and trying to stay safe out there. So thanks for being here. Yeah, please use the attendee chat feature in the left of the window to ask questions. We'll have some time at the end to get to those if you have any. And then speakers today, I'll be kicking things off, and then we'll be going over to my colleague at fourth, Sergio Lopez. And then we have a couple great EV owners to give their experience, Allison Wiley and Joseph Wachunas. So to kick it off, why should you care about electric vehicles? Well, first, cleaner air. A lot of folks that are conscious of the emissions that their vehicles have. And with EVs, there aren't any tailpipe emissions. So if you took those and ran the numbers kind of those emission benefits due to improved air quality and health and decreased ailments like lung disease and asthma and those associated things, there really are a ton of benefits for health and both the economics of our healthcare system as well. And kind of in that same vein, fighting climate change. Transportation is the number one source of CO2 emissions in Oregon and I believe the whole United States. So that is if we can start tackling that, we could really go a long way. And we've seen with the wildfire seasons that we have that climate change is exacerbating a lot of the issues that we're having. So if we can start to cut those down, we can really make progress. And the transportation sector is a good a good sector to start zoning in on. Additionally, energy dollars stay local. Electricity is produced domestically, so it supports local jobs. No transporting, shipping of foreign oil, so supporting local markets as well. Renewable technology, there's a lot of positive benefits we'll see in the future from with battery technology improving and being able to use electric vehicles in more dynamic ways. And then cheaper operations. We'll go into a bit more detail, but cheaper fuel, less maintenance really help bring that lifetime expense of having a vehicle down with EVs. So just to set the bar, what we mean when we say electric vehicles, there's kind of several zero emission vehicles out there, but today when we say electric vehicles, we're talking about battery electric vehicles or BEVs, which are 100% electric. The only way to fuel them is to plug them in, and examples of those are like the Chevy Bolt or the Tesla models. Additionally, there's plug-in hybrid vehicles, which have both an electric motor and a gasoline engine. Really, the biggest thing to note about these vehicles is kind of the difference between a plug-in hybrid and a traditional hybrid, and it's that plug-in part. The A traditional hybrid only has a gas tank, so the only way to fuel it is with gas. There's no way to plug it in like a plug-in hybrid. And additionally, with plug-in hybrid vehicles, you have a set amount of range that you can actually go in electric only mode. And for most vehicles these days, it's around 20 to 40 miles of all electric. And some examples of those are the RAV4 Prime, BMW i3, and the Chevy Volt. So now there are actually over 1.5 million electric cars in the U.S. This graphic is a little outdated, but kind of shows this general trends that we have. And by all standards and metrics, this number is only going to continue to increase, and potentially seeing like a 10x increase over the next decade. So definitely exciting, and the writing on the walls is pointing. EVs are here to stay, and more are coming. In that same vein, automaker commitments. I'm not going to go through all of these, but this is kind of a great example that by this point, pretty much every major automaker has said that electric is either the future or in their future. So some of these like GM 20 all electric vehicle models by 2023, Audi 20 new EV models by 2025, Volkswagen with $84 billion in EV development. These are huge numbers being tossed around and pretty exciting in this space. And that's not including some of these newcomer startups like Rivian, Cybertruck, and also medium and heavy duty applications. We're focusing mainly on light duty passenger vehicles today, but we also have all these other applications such as school buses, bucket trucks, garbage trucks, delivery trucks. Amazon, big headline last year was that they were purchasing 100,000 vehicles from Rivian for their transportation services. So really exciting time to be in this space from the medium and heavy duty side as well. So touching back in on some of the benefits of EVs, I grew up in the Midwest, and doing this work out there, a big question I got is, we use a lot of coal power here in Ohio. So how are like EVs actually cleaner? Like that energy has to come from somewhere, and the answer is yes. Um, Pretty much anywhere you are in the United States, an electric vehicle is going to be cleaner than a traditional internal combustion or ICE vehicle. I really like this graphic from the Union of Concerned Scientists. What this does is kind of take the emission data, depending on the grid makeup of the region, what the grid, and the renewable sources that go into that, and then it creates a mile per gallon equivalent of what an ICE car would need to get to kind of come out equal from the emissions standpoint. So looking here in the Pacific Northwest, it's over 100 miles per gallon. So when you compare that to the average of about 25 miles that the current U.S. fleet gets, this number is noticeably better. And that holds true for pretty much wherever you are in the U.S. And then also, EVs are cheaper to drive than gasoline vehicles. This is a tool by the Department of Energy that basically just takes the average price of gasoline in the state and compares it to the average price of residential electricity. So if you're charging up at home, you can see that it is over 100% or cheaper to go with electricity. So really great reasons if you're driving a lot. You can save a lot of money in your fuel by switching to electric. And additionally, EVs are cheaper to maintain than gasoline vehicles. A recent study came out by Consumer Reports showing that over the lifetime, just taking in maintenance and repair costs, not even gasoline, that EVs per mile cost about half than their ICE counterparts, which is kind of a very cool statistic in that study coming out. So on average, EV owners save about $800 a year, and that's because of no oil changes, reduced maintenance. You don't have your traditional air filters, timing belts, fan belts, spark plugs, all those things that you think about that you have to change when you are going into the shop, you no longer have to do. And there's also this great thing, regenerative braking, that helps capture the energy when you slow down and stop, so you don't have to leverage your brakes as much. So I know folks that are still driving 2012 Leafs that have never had to change their brakes. So kind of just an example of the reduced maintenance that you can get with these types of vehicles. And let's not forget EVs are fun to drive. We love to get behind the wheel of electric vehicles and get consumers and residents to get behind it and try for themselves. You can really break a lot of myths by just getting behind the wheel and seeing that they do have the power and acceleration that meets or exceeds even traditional ICE vehicles. So that instant acceleration and torque, the low center of gravity due to the battery being in the bottom of the vehicle makes tight handling, and they're quiet. You can really actually communicate with people very easily at almost a whisper. You don't really notice the difference until you get in one. And then moving into the financial savings on your purchase. There is a federal tax credit that allows up to $7,500 off your purchase for a new EV. One caveat of this is that it is by automaker, depending on the amount of vehicles that they sell. So Tesla and GM actually no longer qualify for this, but all other automakers do. So definitely something to keep in mind. Local utilities also usually offer some type of rebate or discount, and a lot of times on charging equipment. So if you're looking to upgrade the charging at your home, there's some opportunities to look in there. So check with your local utility. And then we have the Oregon Clean Vehicle Rebate Program, which is a great financial incentive program we have here in Oregon. And I'm going to bring my colleague Sergio in to go into the details here.
Well, thank you, Connor. So let me get settled here technically. And hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. This is Sergio Lopez, Program Manager at Fourth. I'm currently managing the promotion of this rebate, which is why I'm giving the presentation on the behalf of DEQ. This is the official logo for the rebate, so you'll be seeing this more often throughout the next few years at least, and the years to come in the future. The website will be going live later this year as well, so momentum is only going to be building. So the Oregon Clean Vehicle Rebate Program, to dive into the more specifics on qualifications, what it means, and how much you can actually save. So there's essentially two components to this rebate. One of them being just the regular standard rebate. You can receive up to $2,500 off the purchase or lease of a new electric vehicle or a plug-in hybrid vehicle, depending on the battery size, which I'll get to in a little bit. And then you can also do the charge ahead rebate, which is an additional $2,500 off straight of a new or used electric vehicle or plug-in hybrid, depending on your area median income. So low to moderate income, depending on what zip code you're at. And I'll get to more specifics on how to define that in the next couple of slides. And then if you were to combine both of those, you can get a total of $5,000 off a new electric vehicle or electric plug-in hybrid if you are low to moderate income, depending on your area. And the website provided here below, which is www.deq.state.org.us/OCVRP, you can find out if you qualify for the charge ahead. Essentially, what you would do is put in your household size, your zip code, and then that'll kind of give you, they'll do the math for you and determine if you qualify and how much you can receive. So who qualifies? So kind of just to run it down in a concise form, for the standard rebate and then go on to the charge ahead, the eligible applicants for the standard rebate can be any Oregon resident, businesses as well, nonprofits, or any government agency. So if you're if you're working for a county, if you're working for a private business, if you're working for a nonprofit and you wanted to electrify your fleet, that's also an opportunity to do it, which is really neat about this program. Vehicles, any new battery electric for the standard rebate that's under the MSRP of $50,000, and that's the base MSRP. So if you're getting a car that's $48,000 and you tackle on some premium bells and whistles, you'll still qualify. Income requirement, there was no income requirement for the standard rebate. And then what is the actual amount? $750 for motorcycles. It's one thing to note. It was added on late into legislation for this rebate. So if you're into riding motorcycles, this is a huge benefit into going electric. And as noticed, yes, that's how I see the emoji going across the screen. That's fun. And then there's a $1,500 for any battery under 10 kilowatts. So a plug-in hybrid, for example, is going to tend to have less of a battery pack. So at that point, you would get $1,500. If you get a full electric, odds are the lithium-ion battery is going to be more than 10 kilowatts. So you can get the full qualification of $2,500. So for the charge ahead, this one's a little more limiting. It's for Oregon residents only. It doesn't apply to businesses, nonprofits, or other government agencies. For this one, not only can you get a new used EV or plug-in hybrid, but also a used EV, which is a huge benefit of this rebate, given there are a lot of good used EVs in the market, specifically here in Oregon. The base does have to be under $50,000 as well, MSRP. The area median income, which is the AMI, is what I referred to earlier. Basically, the math that DEQ does is it's up to 120% of the median income in the area. So with the little calculator that you have on the website, that's the kind of math it does for you. It is a little complicated because it overlaps with county and zip code, and those things kind of have moving layers depending on where you're at in the state. So obviously in Multnomah County, the number will probably be higher in comparison to Lincoln County or something like that. So, and the rebate amount is just a straight shot of $2,500. So if you qualify or not, I think that's a pretty straight way of identifying if you get the rebate or not. And so kind of digging a little bit more on the standard rebate. So you have to be an Oregon resident with approved Oregon residency. You don't have to have a driver's license. So even if you have an ID and you wanted to, I don't know, get a car as a gift, for example, you can still get the rebate as long as you're proving that you have Oregon residency. You must purchase or lease the new battery electric vehicle or the plug-in hybrid. Pretty straightforward. It is a clean vehicle rebate. And you have to register the vehicle in Oregon for at least 24 months to receive the full credit. Kind of have the commitment of being fully electric is kind of the main one of the main components to this program to getting more EVs on the road. And a common FAQ is if there is a deadline. That's kind of a vague, soft yes or no, but to be more specific, you have to purchase the register the vehicle within 6 months of the lease or purchase date. So you have to send that information in. If you don't do that, you won't qualify for the vehicle. And then the charge ahead, a little very similar to the standard rebate with a couple other twerks. Obviously, be a lower moderate income household with the proof of income eligibility. Also, be an Oregon residency, proof of ID, and you have to purchase the vehicle through a dealer. You cannot do it through person to person. So, for example, I know for the used market, Craigslist is a popular website to attain vehicles. For electric vehicles, that it won't qualify, unfortunately. You have to do it under a registered dealership in Oregon. And you also have to have the vehicle registered within 24 months when you get the vehicle. And the 6-month timeline is also applicable to the charge ahead. So very similarly. And of course, if you wanted to find out if you're eligible, once again, the website is here. It is deq.state.or.us/OCVRP. And then with the businesses, nonprofits, and government agencies, the standard rebate, the only difference here, the big component is you can do 10 per year. So say you work at Nike, for example, and you wanted to get some fleets, or you work for the Oregon Food Bank and you wanted to get a large fleet and have the rebate embedded into your cost savings, you do 10 per year. Everything goes the same minus the annual reporting. You have to do reporting for DEQ for 3 years. And some of that information is still being rolled out on what that reporting will look like. But odds are it's going to include miles traveled, charging information, etc. Kind of the benefits of the impact of EVs. And then to kind of cover some FAQs, I am really towards the end of this presentation to give our EV ambassadors an opportunity to talk about their experiences with EVs. But right now, since the website is not currently live, the way to apply is you would download an application online, you would fill it out, and you would mail it in. You would have to provide the following information, which includes proof of temporary or permanent vehicle registration, the copy of the sales release contract, and obviously the proof of residency. When you have the application filled online, it has all the information detailed for you, so you shouldn't miss anything. DEQ is trying to make this as concise and simple as possible before the website goes live. The deadline, as long as you submit the application within 6 months of the date, you're good to go. And again, if you want to know if you're eligible for the charge ahead rebate, that website will tell you if you do or don't. And additional resources, as more information comes by, we definitely contact Oregon CVRP at energycenter.org. Center for Sustainable Energy, they are based in San Diego, California, and they have managed rebates across the US before, including California's rebate, other larger utilities in California, and also some East Coast, just such as Massachusetts. And now they are doing the backlog information in partnership with DEQ to configure a lot of the applications here in the state of Oregon. In the meantime, now and moving forward, this email and the call center will take you directly to them. And they work really closely with DEQ, so they should answer any questions such as what's the status of my application, how long will it take, etc. Just some FAQs that we've received already. If you're interested in doing any kind of virtual events or promote the rebate, like we're doing right now through a webinar platform or any other ideas you might have, I'm the person you want to contact, and that is my email provided below, which is sergio.l@forthmobility.org. We were going to be doing these type of things this year in conjunction with ride and drives, in conjunction with farmers markets, going out to businesses and giving this presentation in person. However, because of COVID-19, we are accommodating to the ecosystem and doing this right now through virtual events. So if your business, company, whoever you might work for, affiliates are interested in knowing more, definitely give us a shout. We'll have more information to come. And and thank you for tuning in. So I think without further ado, I definitely want to give our ambassadors an opportunity to speak about their behalf. I know we have some questions coming on the rebate, and we'll have time at the end, at the top of the hour, to answer those. So thank you for timing those in. So next up, we have Allison, who is an early adopter of an EV, and I will hand it over to her, and she can.
Actually, Sergio, got to cut you off real quick. We had a second to go a little bit more into the charging components of.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Vehicles. Sorry, Allison. So there is actually a bit more ado for Andrew. But I will go through this quick so we can hop back in there and get your story as well. So one reason we really want to touch on this is we think this is a really important topic to touch on because essentially driving the car is very similar. Cars are cars, but the biggest difference is how you fuel them. So kind of having an understanding of the charging system, I think, is really important and alleviates a lot of questions for folks out there. So charging can be broken down into 3 basic levels. Level 1 is just using the charger that comes with your car. It plugs right into a regular outlet, just like your cell phone. You can get 3 to 5 miles of charge per hour. This is great for overnight. And a lot of folks that I know, this is just the only charger that they really ever need to use. It works for their use case and their commute, and that they don't have to think about it. They go home, they plug in, and that's it. Additionally, we have level 2, which has a bit more power, good for 12 to 40 miles per hour. This is great for public chargers, places that you'll be for a while, such as parking garages or workplaces. And also some folks that do drive a lot or exceptional miles or do want kind of that extra peace of mind will upgrade these at their house. And there are several utilities that have discounts for getting these types of chargers installed at your house. And then level 3 we have is the DC fast charging. This is kind of the most equivalent to going to a gas station out in the wild. A little different still, but For a lot of vehicles out there, you can get 80% of your charge in 20 to 40 minutes. These are great for locating on highways or travel corridors, so you can do some longer distance travel. And it's important to note right now that there are basically three main plug types. There's the CCS, which is basically the American European standard. There's a Nissan standard, so like for the Nissan Leaf would use primarily, and then Tesla is kind of operating on their own proprietary model as well. So also wanted to note kind of the mapping and trip planning features out there. If you have an EV or plan to have an EV, these are a couple apps that I would recommend to just make your life easier. Plugshare.com is a crowdsource information. It's also an app that you can use to find charging stations around you. You can also find information like, is it in use? Is there fees associated with it? What are the amenities around it? And kind of get updates from other people that have recently used it as well. It's a great tool. And then we have ChargeWay, which has a great trip planning feature. So you can see here, like if you're making a trip from Ashland to Seattle, it kind of uses an algorithm to calculate where would be the most efficient for you to stop and charge up, and then automatically puts that into your time of how long it expects you to get there. So another great tool for longer distance travel as well. And then this is just a quick snapshot of kind of the current systems that are out there for longer distance travel. People are more familiar with the Tesla supercharger network, which there are a ton of those. They've been on the game for a while. But there's also some other companies, such as Electrify America, that are involved in this space. In the last couple of years, have been putting out a lot of charges. So you can really see there's a pretty holistic system being developed across the U.S. A little bit of a gap up there in the Montana, North Dakota area, but for the most part, if you're looking to do a long distance trip in your EV, it is definitely feasible. And then Sergio, bring you back in to close this out before we bring in the ambassadors to kind of focus in on a few of the upcoming and current EV models that are up on the market.
Yeah, thanks, Connor. So just going to highlight some of the outstanding vehicles that have existed and are now existing and are going to be existed in the market. A lot of cool things coming down the road, no pun intended. One of the newer ones that is been pretty popular is the Kia Niro. As you can see, the electric mileage is 239 EPA rank, which is a common number now amongst a lot of new vehicles that 2020, now coming to 2021. And the starting MSRP here is $38,500. And this is more of an SUV type model, which before in the years prior, there was a lot more hatchbacks. So we are seeing the market transition more towards bigger size vehicles. The Chevy Bolt, one of the earliest American manufacturers that went electric back in 2017. This 2020 model is 259 electric range, which is similar to the one before, and a slightly better MSRP or lower MSRP of $36,000. Other ones to note, Nissan Leaf being the veteran of the EV market. Now the 2021 model, as you can see, a full electric is 150. If you get the Leaf Plus, you're looking at 226. The base MSRP for the 151 range is about $29,000. So if you were to get the Nissan, the Leaf Plus, it would be a little bit more, but still a very good number considering where the market is headed. And obviously Tesla Model 3, one of the most popular ones as well, one of the most well-performed ones, base MSRP of $37,000. And depending on the battery pack, you can fluctuate range from 250 to 322, and if not maybe more. And then in terms of more larger SUVs, the Mitsubishi Outlander, this is a plug-in hybrid electric. So you have 22 miles of electric range. It's got a 12 kilowatt battery, so this will qualify full on for the rebate. And then 310 of regular gasoline miles. Sorry, it's 310 of gasolines, and then the other ones included. So, and this base MSRP is 35,000-ish. And then the coming soon one, kind of get excited about what's to come. The Rivian. So talk about like heavy duty vehicles and durability, specifically being here in Oregon. This is a huge market for us, including myself personally. So this one's going to come out hopefully within the next year or so. They are currently under manufacturing. So you're looking at somewhere between 200 to 400 plus electric miles of range. And you're looking at a base MSRP of $69,000. And these will be all-wheel drive, which is the unique part with a large towing capacity. Other ones include the Tesla Cybertruck, competitor with Rivian, or vice versa, however you want to look at it, but they're both great vehicles. This one's going to have very similar, if not more mileage, from 250 to 500 plus electric miles. And this MSRP is going to be as low as $39,000. So obviously more affordable than the Rivian. And we should see those in the market within the next couple of years. And then other ones that cars that we're all fond of growing up, such as the Mustang. We have the Mach-E. This one is going to have an electric range between 230 to 300. The base MSRP of 43,000, and that's going to be coming out within this next year. And RAV4. I think Oregonians are really in love with the RAV4s, and I know we used to have all electric RAV4s back in the 2000s, but the RAV4 Prime is going to be a plug-in hybrid version of it. So similar to the Prius Prime, but just the RAV4 model with more durability. We're looking at 42 miles of range, and that base MSRP is going to be 39,000, and we should be seeing those very soon, if not already. And then if we want to get groovy, we have the Volkswagen ID. This one's going to be 435 electric miles of range with the base MSRP of to be determined. And this one's going to be in a couple years. I know this concept model was announced a couple years ago, and Volkswagen has obviously had a more aggressive approach on their fleet electrification. So hopefully we'll see these soon, because this is one that I'm pretty excited about. And one thing to note, I think in conjunction with earlier spiel on the rebate, is used EVs. A large opportunity to get a used EV for a good amount of price. Here in Oregon area, in the Portland metro area, down in Milwaukee, we have Platt Auto. If you want to see more information, plattauto.com is the website. And they have an actual live listed inventory of the used models they have. Here are some examples of as lowest rates that we've seen in the last most recent days or recent months. 2013 lease only, if you can get as low as $6,000. Right now they're probably around 9,000, depending. You can have Chevy Volts on there as well. The 2016 Volkswagen e-Golf as low as $12,000. And I know I once saw an i3 there for about $18,000, and a 2017 Chevy Bolt there for about also $17,000. So very affordable. One thing to note is the new cars are great, but if you're looking for something that's going to be in city travel, kind of just the city commuter or the local commuter, used EVs are definitely the market to go, and I know that inventory is only growing. So without further ado, we will go to our ambassadors. I'll go back to this slide, and now for real this time, I will introduce. We're going to start with Allison, and Allison, take it away.
Thank you, Sergio, and thank you for bringing me on today. It's fun to be here. I love talking about transportation. I'm Allison Wiley, and I've worked in transportation for 14 years, and I'm the founder and writer of the Electric Bus newsletter, which I think some of you receive. So the story that I'm going to share with you this morning, it goes from me being not a car person at all to a person who likes some cars, as in my electric car. And I even sort of love my electric car. And I'm going to tell you that story and about why I love it. And I'll confess that there's very selfish reasons that I love my electric vehicle. So I'm actually a transit geek, as you could guess from the fact that I do the Electric Bus newsletter. And I've always liked to ride the bus and Max, and I like to bike and walk. And I've never been a really big fan of cars. I've spent a lot of my life avoiding cars. In my first 5 years in transportation, I was helping people to carpool and use the bus and bicycle and walk. And my husband and I have been together 18 years, and we've almost always shared just one car as we've been together. So not a big car person. So in June of 2018, we went ahead and we got our first electric vehicle. We'd had a hybrid prior, and the electric is very, very different. And I'll go ahead and talk about the money, because I think we all care about our finances and how much does it cost us to get around. We put $2,000 down, and then we pay $200 a month. And so we're doing the leasing instead of the buying. And that whole leasing cost actually has come back to us, which I'll get to in a minute. I really like electric, and I'll tell you why. And it's not necessarily very self-flattering. The reasons I love driving electric is because I'm lazy and I'm cheap and I'm pleasure oriented. So the lazy part first. So with our electric vehicle, which is a Kia Soul, by the way, I never have to go to a gas station, and I can fuel in my driveway, and that saves a lot of time because I don't like doing errands. I never have to go to Jiffy Lube or any other place to get maintenance done because my electric vehicle has very few moving parts. And it's just a very unneedy car. And I like cars that aren't needy. I never have to argue with my husband about who's going to go to the stupid gas station and who's going to take the car to Jiffy Lube because those errands are off of our plate. And so I have more time to do all the things that I like, which pleases my lazy nature. So then I'm cheap. With the electric vehicle, with our little Kia Soul, we're paying less than 1/3 of what we had been paying for fuel because electric is a really cheap fuel, as my colleague showed earlier. We're paying almost nothing for maintenance. I can't think of anything that we've really done for our very unneedy little car. State and federal rebates brought our leasing cost down to where we ended up paying very, very little for the Kia Soul. And that's actually true. Those rebates, it turns out, I hadn't known how that would go because we were leasing instead of buying, but it applied even for leasing as well as buying. So the rebates make a huge difference. If you're cheap at all like me, then you'll make out really well. So finally, then there's the pleasure aspect. And I'm not a person who likes noisy cars. I really cringe when people drive down the road with the big, angry, loud motors. The car is really quiet, and so that pleases my serene nature. There's no gas fumes in my driveway. I really like not having gas fumes. On a cold morning, there's no warming up of the car. Acceleration. I never knew how much I could enjoy this torque thing. When I pull out onto a busy street, I feel completely confident because I know that I can get into that opening and I'm not going to be struggling or at all nervous. So not that I'm the biggest fast driver in the world, but the acceleration is completely unlike any of the traditional cars that I've had in the past. And then I'm fairly guilt-free. I've always cared about my carbon footprint. I've always cared about climate change. I have not liked being a big contributor as I used to be. So with the electric vehicle that we've got now, my carbon footprint is way down. And it's not that it's zero. I don't know that it's possible to have a zero carbon footprint and go anywhere. But I feel much, much happier in my heart to be driving places in my Kia instead of in my traditional car. So to wrap this up, I'm still a transit geek. I still love transit, but I'm now also a lover of electric vehicles. So that is my little conversion story. And I look forward to a discussion. I'm always a fan of questions, answers, and repartee. I'm going to turn it over now to my friend and colleague, Joe. I'll stop my camera.
Hi, everybody. Great to be with you. My name's Joe. I'm just I work for Forth, but I'm going to be speaking just at my own EV journey today. Thanks for joining us on a Saturday, to talk about electric vehicles. I'm excited to hear about your thoughts and opinions as well. I'll get into like a 5-minute story. I'm setting my timer. This is my EV story. This is a little shot that I took of our EV at our Tesla at the Painted Hills in Central Oregon. Those of you who don't know, it's a national monument, gorgeous. I found, Connor said, being out in an electric car break a lot of myths. I hope those of you who are EV owners are out there breaking myths too. I had a couple of people stop me and say, hey, I didn't know electric car could come out this far. I'm like, oh yeah, just watch me, man. I've got still 200 miles of range, So love to have this conversation. I'll just tell you a little bit about my family story. We're a family of 4. This is our house to the top left. We, like a lot of people, we are concerned about climate change and have been for a while. We want to make our house as efficient as possible, save money on bills. And so we, a piecemeal at a time, since we bought our house in 2012, we've been adding things that make it greener and better and more efficient. And that started kind of with solar panels. We love that. And then we're like, oh, how can I run more of my house on this electricity thing? And so we got these heat pumps in the bottom right corner to run our heating and cooling. We got a heat pump water heater that heats our hot water. We got an induction stove. And so most of our houses run on electricity. And so we're like, oh, that's awesome. Like this is our solar panels are producing our energy and running our lives. And we kind of resisted getting a car for a long time. We would, we're bikers like Allison. We love transit. We love, I run places. And when we needed a car, we would rent cars. And, there's great car sharing systems. Those are all awesome. And we kind of tallied it up after a while. We're like, we're spending, a couple $1,000s on car shares a year. And we're driving, gas cars. And what's this electric vehicle thing? So finally, electric vehicles came out so here's our gas emissions. We've got to get it down big time. So like you can see residential commercials in the middle here. This is in Oregon, and we got to follow this yellow line and get our CO2 emissions. And so we're doing better on our houses. We've got it, but transportation is our biggest source of emissions. And that was true in my family too. We had kind of like greened our house, but our transportation was still, we were still using fossils to get around. So we kind of made the leap in 2017, and I kind of want to highlight what the other speakers have said. We went used, and we got a used Nissan Leaf for $7,800. It had 10,000 miles on it. So a lot of these used Leafs were coming off lease, and they people, the cost was less because they're first generation and they have 85 miles of range, but they're fantastic cars. And I know this from experience. We loved this car. We had it for about 3 years. We took it everywhere. You can see here, I'm in Central Oregon. I'll give you a little map here of where we went. We took it on road trips all over. And so I just want to put a shout out there for these great used EVs that most of them are $10,000. They have low mileage. You can drive them forever. And you can take them on road trips. It's a little more planning and thinking, but there is charging infrastructure. We took ours everywhere. It's not as convenient as a longer range electric car, and most of the new ones are longer range. But especially with that rebate, you can get a used electric car for like next to nothing, and I highly encourage you to do that. So we did that for 3 years. So we bought our Leaf for $7,800. About 2.5-3 years later, we sold it for $7,000. So basically, it was the price hadn't declined at all. It was such a great deal for my family, and we invested that into a long range Model 3, kind of a dream here. And I love all electric vehicles. I particularly love this electric vehicle. It's my car. We bought it in 2019. We tried something interesting. We tried renting it out on the car sharing site Turo. This is something to consider if you are, looking to get a more expensive. I wanted the car to pay for itself a little bit. We did that for 8 months. Teslas go like hotcakes on Turo because there's nowhere else to rent them. And we paid off around $5,000 of the car after 8 months. After that time, and it put about 10,000 miles on the car. After that time, we were like, our lives are really busy. We've got 2 little kids, and this was even before COVID. We just decided, but it's really a valuable option to make up some of your car and to get people in electric vehicles. So I would highly encourage you to consider Turo, Turo.com, to consider that. So we bought the long range version. It has 325 miles. It was selling at the time for $46,000, and we got $6,000 in rebates and tax credits. My alarm's going off, so I'm going to finish up here. I can't say enough about this car. You can take it anywhere. We have taken it all over. We were in Crater Lake a couple weeks ago, and it was like every 10th car was a Model 3. So we do love this car. Let me see if there's anything else having. we only charge it every 3 weeks or so. It's Tesla holds its value better than any other car on the market right now. There's a study that came out that after 100,000 miles, somebody only had 5% battery degradation. So that means they have 5% less battery. So if I've got 325 miles and after 100 of range, and after 100,000 miles, my car only loses 5%. You do the math. It's not very much. These cars can last forever, and there's no maintenance. I just rotated the tires in 2 years of having this Tesla. And the best thing I'll say is also that you can make whoopee cushion sounds under people's seats in the Tesla to make them sound like they're passing gas. So that's really fun feature of the Tesla. My daughters love it. And one last thing I'll say is the fast charging infrastructure. Connor was showing that a little bit before. It's great all over, but Tesla has the lead on fast charging infrastructure. So your car tells you where to go if you're on a trip, how much range you'll have. It takes all the thinking out of it for you and gets you to your destination easy breezy. Other electric cars, you need an app and you use other third-party chargers, and those are coming online and they're great, but Tesla has the advantage there. So no brainer on EVs. A lot of people have already gone over all these things. I'll just say with my solar energy and my electric car, I'm like my own energy producer, right? It's amazing. When else have we had this opportunity where we can produce the energy that's driving our car? I find that so exhilarating. Yes, so that's our story. And now let's open it up for questions.
Awesome. Thank you, Joe. And also thank you, Allison. Both your stories were awesome to hear. A couple questions have come in from the chat. So to kick it off to Sergio, we had, is the Oregon rebate only for personal vehicles, or would a commercial light duty, such as a van, also qualify?
That's a great question. If your commercial light duty will qualify if for your standard rebate, if the battery is over 10 kilowatts, you can get the 15. Well, if it's under, then you get 15. But Archimoto is a great question. I believe don't quote me on this, because I know some electric motorcycles are not qualified because you have to go through DEQ. Zero is one of them. UPCO, for example, isn't, and they're based out of Eugene, Oregon. I want to say they are, but if it is, then you should have no problem getting that going. But yeah, that's as far as I can answer that question.
And we had one just come in, rebates for used vehicle. We touched on this a little bit, but do you want to recap just like a little blurb on the charge ahead rebate, Sergio?
Yeah, so the charge ahead rebate, you can get $2,500. That's $2,500 off a new or used electric or plug-in hybrid vehicle if you are low to moderate income, under the base MSRP of $50,000. So it's in addition to the regular standard rebate of the Oregon Clean Vehicle Rebate. So if you combine those two and you are low moderate income, you can get a total of $5,000 for a new EV. So
great, thank you. So I'm going to kick it to a couple questions for our ambassadors here. So what do you think the biggest misconception or myth associated with EVs is, and that it took actually having one and driving one to overcome?
I probably tend to resist new technology more than most people. I thought that it would make my life more complicated and that I would have to just go out of my way a lot when my life was already really busy. And what I've found is this big pleasure factor that I know that Joe has talked about also is so much more enjoyable to drive now. My experience is that it does take more planning to take a road trip, but that it's worth it. That the big enjoyment factor, the satisfaction factor is high. So it's easier and more fun than I had imagined.
Cool, thanks. Joe, you have anything to add there?
I would kind of say the road trip. I was worried about the road trip possibility, even in a very low range EV, and you really can do it in any EV. The lower range you have to do a little more planning. The higher range is just easy breezy and just what you're used to, if not easier than a regular car. So that's been a pleasant surprise.
Cool. Another question a question that I get a lot, I think we all do, is people are, concerned about public charging accessibility and kind of the questions if you are doing a road trip. So actually taking away road trip, what is like your regular charging situation like? Are you mostly charging at home? Do you have to access public chargers a lot? Or like, yeah, kind of what is your interaction in that space?
I have a habit. I'm a big person for habits. Whenever I pull the car back into the driveway, I open the charging port hole and I just plug it in. And I almost always am running with tons and tons of range because it's just my habit to plug in as soon as I go into the driveway. The only time that I don't charge at home is when I go out to Thorn. I go out to Hood River, we go out the gorge. I think I answered the question.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm similar, right? It's charging at home, and they say 80 to 90% of charging happens at home for people. So that's something to get used to with an electric car. It's like, oh yeah, I'm feeling in my house. We don't have a driveway, so we've had to negotiate that our current solution is an extension cord that we plug into our charging cord. And I can't recommend this. The automakers don't recommend it. But I see a lot of folks doing it's this temporary measure until we can get really good on-street charging. Since I've been talking to a couple electricians, and I think I'm in the market in a couple months to run some charging right up to the edge of my property. You can run electricity right to the edge of your property, and then and I'm going to have a little charging. A little car charger there at the edge of my property, and then kind of run it with a trip guard over my sidewalk. It's less than ideal. There's still no way to permit charging right on the street in the right-of-way area next to the sidewalk, unfortunately. So, but I see a lot of people, going EV and making do. And I'll just say one real quick. There are some great fast charging programs where you can sign up for a deal. If you can't charge at home, the extension cord thing is weird. So you can charge, and some people pay $25 a month and get unlimited charging. So if you can imagine that, $25 is your fuel cost for the entire month, if you're in a situation like mine.
Great, thank you both. All right, I got one more for you. So for some potential people that, hopefully after this are going to go out and purchase an EV, or interested at least in purchasing EV, what is one thing that you wish you knew before making your EV purchase? Do you have any tips or something that should be looked at for folks out there?
I have some thoughts, Allison, if you want to.
Go ahead, Jeff.
So a couple things, we hear that the early generation, 2011 is when electric cars came out. In 2011 and 2012 is basically your options were almost just Nissan Leaf, and their batteries are not supposed to be the best. 2011, 2012. After that, I had a 2013, so I can verify the batteries are totally fine. So that's something to watch. A lot of the cars you can get a readout of the battery health, so that's something to check. Most of the time, again, you're going to find that the batteries are just, you just kind of want to see what percentage of it is, is it still 100%? Is it 95%? And that's a good, so I know for sure the Nissan Leaf, you can get a readout of the battery. So that's something to just keep in mind. But I also don't want people to think, oh no, electric car batteries are something I should worry about. Really, in the vast majority of cases, like you're getting the battery degrades so slowly, again, that 5% after 100,000 miles that I've cited earlier. So you should be fine, but maybe something to check into as you're shopping around, especially for a used one.
And the advice that I would give, just to sort of tag along with what Joe said, I've learned to not take the range reading on my car literally, because it changes constantly. If I go up a hill, if I'm going up a grade, my range becomes less. So I don't take it literally what the car is telling me in terms of miles I have left. I've learned to be quite conservative. And that has been a good policy. the car is estimating how many, it doesn't really know how many miles. And so I never let it go down to 9, 10, 11, or 12. I keep it well above that as I'm doing my recharging.
Great. Thanks. Sergio, you got anything to add from your experience?
No, I did see a question come in asking if you live in an apartment complex and you have to go, for example, Portland or Newburgh, and you can't charge overnight. What are some suggestions? Carrie had a great suggestion that I want a second. And yeah, communicate. I think workplace charging is really important. And I think to the point of charging at home to a 120 outlet, you can also do that at work if you don't have workplace charging. I think growing up with gasoline-powered cars, like most of us, we are under the impression that you have to have a full tank or you have to have as much gas as possible. I think as long as you can charge what you compensate or what you drive a day, that's all you really need. So you don't need a full charge every day. And I think to answer that question, I think that there's some overlap there. If you can charge at work, that's a huge benefit. And even if you don't have a level 2 charger, if you can get a 120 plug somewhere, that's all you need for now. And as Joe mentioned, and as cross state travels, there's more charging infrastructure being installed now, and something to look forward to. So I do want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and I would say add on to that. If you could, all the new cars coming out have these huge batteries, and if you're driving 20 miles a day, you're not going to need to charge. You're going to need to charge every 2 weeks. So if you're in an apartment complex and just want to go to get a fast charge every 2 weeks, that's pretty. That's kind of what you're used to in filling up. So, yeah, you can run the car for a long time without needing to charge.
Thanks. And a question that just came in, they asked, has any of you ever ran out of gas? A better way to probably put that is running out of fuel or out of charge. But any experiences with that, or has that been avoided in your experience?
I've ran out of gas in my carbureted vehicle before, and I have not run out of range in the electric car experience that I've had. But I was really close, but I made it to the charging station. So I think you prepare more, so I feel like you're less prone, but I haven't.
I had more experiences, and some of it had to do with my youth, but I had a number of experiences of running out of gas when I had a gas guzzling car when I was in college. More of those experiences than I've ever had with running out of electric fuel.
Yeah, I never had it. I've gotten close. Especially when we had the low range Leaf, you really get good at knowing your car and how much range you can get, especially when you're taking it on a trip. So I would push it sometimes and get to 5% on the battery. So never have done that. I never have run out. But I know that AAA has some tow trucks that can. So we have AAA, and they can help if you run out of charge, they can charge your car. So that's always a peace of mind.
Great. Thank you all for those experience. One more quick. I think we have time for one more quick. Then somebody asked about the experience with range shortening due to colder temperatures or the cabin heater or other features. So anybody attest to kind of how much effect that has and the considerations for it?
It's a lot of effect. If you're running your heater and so forth, it makes a really big difference. You can turn off your heater, and if you want to, improve your range and bring your sweaters and blankets. Altitude going uphill makes a really big difference on your range. You learn to drive differently with electric than when you had your gas vehicle. It's a more sensitive instrument. You're interacting really with the vehicle more than with the gas vehicle.
And then I could just provide a little perspective on the because I had the early version where with the heat, you turn on the heat, you really had to think about it, and so I'd be turning on the defrost for a little while, turning it off. That is one of the things you want to think about with the used EV, especially if you're taking a first range EV on a trip. Again, these cars are less than 10 years old. With the longer range ones, it's just we run our heat and our AC and our Tesla on a trip, and we'll go 200 miles and we use 200 miles of what it says. So that's kind of going to be a thing of the past in my mind. It already is for the longer range ones. But if you're looking at The first generation lower range ones, you'll get some less. You get less range in the winter, and when you use the heating.
Great. Thank you, everyone, for your responses. Thank you, everyone, for attending. I wanted to do one plug for a new program Forth has been working on with Eugene Water and Electric Board and Emerald PUD out in the greater Eugene, Springfield, Lane County area. So if you're one of those customers, you can take a test drive at a certified dealer and enter to win $250. Right now, our only certified dealer is Kendall Chevrolet, so you can start going in there. But we will be certifying more dealers in the coming weeks, so be on the lookout for that. And that is it. There's our Forth emails, and we will be sharing the slides out with folks after, and we can share Allison's email as well. So thank you to all of our speakers. It was a great presentation. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their now Saturday afternoon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.